I had the chance to watch over one of my closest friends' homes last year. I was given the task of caring for their lovely collection of lizards, a variety of fish, and houseplants that needed watering while they were away on a 2-week business trip. The fact that their home was more comfortable than my apartment made the occasion even more delightful. Naturally, I was happy to accept the task. The first week of home-sitting went without a hitch and was enjoyable, much like a good errand stay. On the other hand, one evening, as I sat at the kitchen table, I abruptly heard a man coughing close to the house. I was surprised by the sound because it was so close and was coming from the area just outside the rear door. I quickly reacted and hurriedly turned on the exterior lights to announce my presence. I cautiously peeked out the window after a moment and discovered that the individual had left. I couldn't help but ponder their initial presence and wonder why they were there. I was on guard for a time, but when there were no more instances, I was able to relax. As it was already past 7, and I found myself without any food, I decided to venture outside to grab a bite. As I stepped out, something caught my attention in the yard. An array of footprints imprinted on the grass, forming a distinct path. Curiosity piqued, I followed the trail, which led from the sidewalk to the back of the house and then back to the sidewalk again. I hopped into my car and proceeded with my food errand, all the while pondering the purpose behind those footsteps. No plausible explanations came to mind. It simply seemed inexplicable and devoid of any apparent motive. Upon returning to the house, I swiftly scanned the grass for any additional footprints, but found nothing further. Once back inside, I settled down to watch some TV. After an hour, I turned off the television and went to bed. While sitting up and browsing on my phone for a while, my attention was suddenly captured by the sound of footsteps outside once more. This time, the individual seemed to be roaming the front yard. As I listened intently, the footsteps approached the front door and eventually made their way around to the back entrance. My senses heightened and I rose from the bed, now fully alert, as I heard the back door being tampered with, as if someone was attempting to open it. With a surge of caution, I hurried to the top of the stairs and swiftly flipped the light switch, illuminating the downstairs area. The sudden burst of light seemed to halt the intruder's progress. Taking a few steps down, I leaned over the railing, peering at the back door. The person had vanished, leaving behind an eerie sense of uncertainty. Moments later, the peace was shattered as shards of glass flew across the living room, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of a window being shattered. Although I couldn't witness the intrusion from my view, a surge of fear propelled me to dash upstairs and seek refuge in the bedroom. A few coughs pierced the air, followed by the ominous crunching of broken glass as the intruder stepped inside. With their entry, chaos erupted, engulfing the once peaceful house. The intruder continued destroying things, causing chaos and fear. I called the police, but I worried they wouldn't arrive in time. The intruder made their way upstairs and tried to break into the spare bedrooms. Eventually, they'd reached the bedroom I was in. I had locked the door, but they forcefully hit it until a panel almost came off. They managed to open the door and enter the room, creating a sense of terror. The intrusive person was hooded, wearing a face mask, and carrying a metal baseball bat. He glanced at me angrily as I fought back tears in the corner of the room. He instantly turned away from me, though, and started viciously breaking the furniture and walls in the entire room. He seemed to have no awareness of me and was only concerned with destroying everything as soon as he could. He carried on with his spree without noticing my presence, passing by me and entering the next room. He eventually left the property. Stunned and motionless, I remained rooted in the same spot, unable to move until the police finally arrived. The following day, my friends returned unexpectedly to confront the aftermath. The house was ruined, yet strangely, nothing was stolen. The police suggested that it was highly likely that the perpetrator was someone known to my friend, someone who held a grudge against her. However, she couldn't think of anyone who would have such animosity toward her. I attempted to describe the intruder, but his face was entirely obscured, rendering my observations of little use. What terrified me the most was the fact that the man completely disregarded my presence, displaying unwavering confidence and showing no fear or concern about my being there. To this day, The individual responsible for the intrusion has not returned to my friend's house, and their motive remains a mystery, leaving them in a sense of uncertainty. I ended up working in a small family-run grocery store. The spooky part, I worked in a warehouse that was remote and understaffed. The majority of the stocking work was done during the day, but my coworker and I were forced to work alone at night to sort the back room and complete the tasks that the day shift had left unfinished. The drawback of this simple job with decent wages was that I had to work alone on my coworker's days off, and he had to do the same on mine. We complained that it was unfair because we were still required to complete the same amount of work alone. This spine-chilling tale takes place on a dread-filled Friday night, the night when my coworker was free from haunting obligations. At 10:30, I began my eerie shift, pushing boxes while lost in a podcast. After 3 hours, I completed the first batch and ventured into the back for more. Suddenly, a chilling thud reverberated through the building, prompting me to remove my headphones and listen to the unsettling noises that echoed within. Despite the store appearing normal, it was crucial to note that the entrance doors were locked at night, while the exit doors swung open from the inside. Unsettlingly, our store had a practice of leaving the exit doors unlocked so that they might be forced open from the outside. It needed a tremendous amount of force, and the door resisted as if in protest. Strangely enough, I had noticed this trend in other places I had previously worked, making it appear uncannily common. In reality, if you casually tugged on the door and weren't expecting anyone to answer, it wouldn't do anything, concealing its hidden weakness. Nonetheless, this peculiar arrangement always filled me with a subtle unease whenever I heard peculiar sounds. I reluctantly started working again because everything appeared to be fine. While stocking beverages in the far left aisle, I caught sight of a figure passing by, but it was only a glimpse in the corner of my eye. The sudden apparition startled me, prompting me to remove my headphones and rush to the front of the store, hoping to catch another glimpse. However, the figure had vanished without a trace. I hurriedly searched the entire store, checking each aisle and even the back room, but found no sign of anyone. I couldn't determine if it was just my imagination or a real encounter. Despite returning to work, I remained on edge for the rest of the night, frequently looking around with a sense of unease. During my shift, I heard more strange noises and investigated each time, but found nothing. The next night, my coworker and I checked the security camera footage. We noticed a man entering the store wearing a bulky jacket and keeping one hand in his pocket. He watched me while I stocked shelves, giving me an eerie feeling. We saw him knock over a box at the 3-hour mark and quickly hide. It was the first sound I had heard, adding to the mystery surrounding this mysterious figure. After discovering the unsettling footage, my coworker and I decided to involve the police. Unfortunately, the lack of identifiable features rendered the footage practically useless for their investigation. Despite this setback, the memory of the mysterious man's penetrating stare, with one hand concealed within his pocket, sent shivers down my spine. It felt as though he held a dark secret or concealed a weapon, leaving me on edge, uncertain of his intentions. Perhaps he contemplated committing a dreadful act or awaited my discovery before making his move. Thankfully, he never returned, or at least not to my knowledge, relieving me of his haunting presence. If you have watched this video until now and enjoyed it, please don't forget to subscribe and press the notification bell so you never miss any updates. In a modest residence nestled near a bustling highway, my older brother and I share a place. Being in our mid-20s, we both hold steady jobs, but the financial burden is lightened by splitting the rent and cohabiting. Due to our divergent work schedules, we hardly cross paths. While I tackle the morning shift, my brother diligently fulfills his duties during the late hours. Surprisingly, this arrangement suits us both, as it creates the illusion of having the entire house to ourselves whenever the other is away. This chilling incident took place a few months ago, yet its grip on my psyche remains unyielding. One day, I arrived home from work around 4 p.m. and ventured out with friends, Returning to the empty abode by 10 p.m., my brother had already departed for his night shift, leaving me to my own devices. However, with an early morning shift looming ahead, leisure time was a luxury I couldn't afford. I prepared my lunch for the following day, stole a brief respite on the couch for approximately 15 minutes, and retired to bed. Hours later, my senses abruptly roused me from my restful state, revealing the time to be 2:30 in the eerie pre-dawn hours. Attempting to return to the embrace of sleep, I nestled my head back onto the pillow and shut my eyes. Yet my peace was shattered when the sound of my brother's entrance through the front door pierced the silence. Puzzled by his unexpectedly early return, I presumed he must have forgotten something or required his lunch, leading me to sleep just moments later. The next morning, I woke up and prepared for work as usual. When I went to grab my packed lunch from the fridge, it was gone. I realized that my brother must have accidentally taken it the previous night. I went to work and ended up buying fast food for lunch instead. When I returned home, my brother wasn't there, so I wanted to remind him not to take any food from the bottom drawer, which was reserved for my lunches. After dedicating an hour to tidying up the kitchen and preparing tomorrow's lunch, I took a brief nap. Upon waking around 8 p.m., I sensed that my brother had returned home at some point, but had already departed for work. For dinner, I reheated some leftovers and went to my room where I watched a movie to pass the time. I dozed off again. However, I was abruptly awoken from my sleep in the dead of night, just before 3 a.m., as I heard the front door close, signaling my brother's arrival. In my weary state, I reached for my phone on the nightstand and sent a text message to my brother, urging him not to take my food. Reluctant to engage in a conversation that might disrupt my chances of falling back asleep, I hesitated to rise from my bed. Within moments, a reply arrived, but it consisted solely of a perplexed question mark. Unwilling to explain the entire situation via text, I mustered the energy to slowly extricate myself from the comfort of my bed and make my way to the door. Opening the door with caution, I ventured into the kitchen, only to find it empty. My brother was nowhere to be seen, leaving me bewildered and uncertain of his whereabouts. As I went into the living room, a wave of horror washed over me. Seated in one of our chairs was an unknown man in tattered garments, his eyes filled with a wild, deranged expression. I stood frozen in disbelief, unable to comprehend the scene before me. On the table in front of him lay an assortment of food from our fridge and pantry. Suddenly, the man sprang to his feet, revealing an object clutched tightly in his hand. Panic overwhelmed me, and instinctively, I spun around and sprinted toward the front door, my heart pounding in my chest. Yet to my relief, I heard no footsteps echoing behind me as I made my frantic escape. In a state of shock, I called my brother and explained the situation. He urged me to contact the police, and as I was on the phone, I saw the intruder appear in the doorway, locking me out. The police arrived and confronted the deranged man wielding a knife, eventually detaining him. It remains unknown how he obtained a key to our house. We promptly changed the locks as a precautionary measure. It is chilling to imagine the intentions behind the intruder's possession of the knife. It appears that he assumed my brother to be the sole occupant of the house, which is why he entered at night. Had I not awakened and encountered him, my brother would probably have been subjected to an attack upon his return from work. Likewise, I would likely have met a similar fate the following morning. The realization of how narrowly we escaped such a dangerous situation is deeply unsettling.